Welcome back into the Rounding Third podcast. I'm Nick, and tonight we got boys back together. How we doing, boys?
Good. How we
Good,
doing?
fellas. What's up?
Not too bad. You're gonna have to excuse the voice. I'm a little bit sick. Got to write it out. I'm, packing the cough drops. Got one in each cheek. Got a whole tray next to me, ready to go. But we got a lot of stuff to cover tonight. But before we do that, make sure we like, follow our Facebook page, subscribe to our YouTube channel. To get the updates when we go live, and you can watch the videos after, of course. So we're going to lead off, of course, with, the only thing that you can talk about professionally or with professional baseball, and that's the lockout and where the status is with that. So the players have conceded a few things. What were those?
Yeah, so the players have conceded they're talking expanded playoffs. They're talking about eliminating the shift, expanding the bases, but that sounds like that's more of a safety and test pilot from the minor leagues that they had success with. And they're talking a pitch clock, 14 seconds with nobody on base, 19 seconds with runners on base.
So I was in a discussion with people today, and they were like, bigger bases, and they're thinking like these track mats. Like, no, they're not going to put a high jump mat at friggin' second base, guys. Like, they're just widening it like an inch or two on each side. And what they're going to do is it's still going to be 90 feet, but you just put the front of the plug that the base goes in just moves back that 1 inch. So the front of the bag is still at 90 feet if I'm right. So it doesn't change anything. All it does is it makes it safer for double plays and that play at first that everyone gets their ankle stepped on. I mean, they should just put a safety base in and call it good, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, if first base is an inch, like that's not. I would love to see how little in the minor, and I have no idea about the numbers, but I would love to see how little that actually changed things in the minors. I mean, like if you're ripping on someone's ankle at 12-inch bases, like you're gonna rip on them at 13-inch bases. Right. Like, so if they're doing it at first base, like I'm with you on that. Just put in that safety base, which is kind of stupid looking, but like whatever, you can get used to it.
But they already have a runner's box. It wouldn't look that bad. I don't think it would.
No,
well, it would line up with the box, right? It looked like a softball field.
But it would kind of look silly at first.
At first, right? It would look silly at first.
It would look silly initially.
Thank you. Okay, gotcha.
But also, somebody's like got the cold and they're punchy. So,
but I'll tell you, the making up for second base, third base. What is even the argument against it? I really don't get the argument against it.
I don't either.
Well, and I think to elaborate on the base size, so the bases are currently 15 square inches. That's the size of the base. The new bases are going to be 18 square inches. It's the same difference, the same size difference going from like a small to a medium pizza. You're literally talking 1.5 inches all around. It's not going to make a massive difference. It's just what that does is it gives the fielder at second just that much more buffer to avoid the slide. But the flip side of it is they also feel like when people slide into second, rather than continuing through the base and coming off the backside of the base, that extra space might allow them to keep a hand or at least grab on. So you've got less guys getting tagged out after the slide. They found in the minors that the biggest benefit was guys didn't slide through the bigger bases like they do the current bases.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. That's a great point.
Yeah, that was the biggest reason the minors they found to do it. It also reduced some of the double play friction and some of the kind of incidents at first. But when you get to Major League Baseball, if a guy is getting in a collision at first base, it's not his ankle. That's because a throw drew him off, and it's like a full body tackle. Like, it doesn't matter how big the bases are, unless they're like the gym mats. You're not going to prevent those collisions.
Right. And then Joey Gallo might be the happiest man on earth because they have banned the shift. Which, listen, there's a lot of people that like that they banned the shift. I'm not. And listen, if you are one of the top 500 players in the world or whatever, you should be able to hit the ball to the opposite field. Like, sorry, I don't care. Like,
I mean, it's hard. Like, it's hard to do. Like, I'm not saying it's easy, but like my whole thing with the shift though is like, I'm I'm not totally for banning the shift, but how do you enforce it? Like, what happens? Like, what's the enforcement when, like, so can we not shade guys in the outfield at all? Or like, is there going to be like, kind of like lines in left center and right center? And is there only going to be infield? Is it only going to be infield shifts and only 2 guys on each side of the bag? Well, what happens if the shortstop kind of drifts there, pre-pitch? Like, is it just going to be a ball? Do the runners gain a base like it's a balk? Like, how are we enforcing it? And what are these penalties that's happening?
The fielders can't move until the ball hits the ground. That's going to be the rule.
No, that's not serious, right?
No, it's not. That's
No,
not
he's
serious.
not serious.
Oh, Jesus. I was like, what the hell are you talking about?
They have to
Yeah.
stay in
Although-
one spot until the ball's
Yeah, it would be like MLB to create a rule with that kind of distinction around it. But no, you got a point, Sean. I mean, at what point do you say, is it a shift? Is it a shade? Is it after pitch movement? Like, what's preventing the shortstop from standing right behind second base, and as soon as the pitcher goes into his windup, creeping over to the second base spot? Like, could be done totally. But I will say this one thing: if Joey Gallo doesn't go hit friggin' 300 next year, after bitching that loudly about the shift, then I feel like that they should run him out of baseball.
100%, dude.
If the stats say you're going to hit 80% of the balls in play from center field to right, then put everybody over there. You know who doesn't get shifted on? Good hitters. That's who doesn't get shifted on.
Dude, I would throw the catcher out there if I could. Like, if he's never going to hit the opposite field, and be like, dude, like, sorry, here's a glove if you want, but we're putting him out there.
I'd have all 3 outfielders over there. I'd have the third baseman playing second base. I'd have the pitcher after he lets go running over to that side of the field to cover. I mean, the fact this guy can't hit the ball to left field, that's his problem, not baseball's problem.
The guy can't even hit the ball, period. He's got like 500 Ks and like, dude, he just needs to stop.
Dude, hitting a baseball is incredibly difficult. It's the hardest thing to do in any sport.
For sure.
And I don't really think it's particularly close, to be 100% honest.
No.
I'm not going to sit there. Like, it's not easy. Like, you watch these things like up close. Like, you guys, I'm sure you guys have sat like close to the field for like a Division I or like a, maybe even at Fenway. Like, that ball comes in at 90 something miles an hour with like movement. Like, that's not easy to hit. I'm not saying it's easy to hit, but when you can make it up to that level, you got to be able to make an adjustment. And I'm not saying like you don't have to be like Ted Williams and say, oh, if I hit 300 on down and away. Like, I'm not saying you have to do that, but like make an adjustment, like be able to take the ball the other way. And again, like banning the, like if I'm a pitcher, I'm not so sure I'm like, because the idea of having 4 guys on one side versus 3 guys and versus 2 guys versus 3 guys shading in the outfield, like however the math, like you're going to pitch guys differently. Like, of course you are. The numbers are there. The math is there. The stats are there. Like, you're pitching now, like you're telling these pitchers, like, you now have to completely adjust the way that you're approaching these hitters because the hitters are bitch moaning and complaining too much.
Right.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah. And Doug brings up a funny one here where I feel like this was the Rays. I feel like it was Madden with the Rays that did this, but
it totally would be Joe Madden. It would definitely be a Joe Madden thing to do.
But they put all the infielders over, pulled the left fielder in to play shortstop, left field completely open.
Yeah.
He thinks it was the White Sox. It could have been. I feel like that's a Joe Madden move all day, but
I'll say this: if it was Joe Madden, he would tell you about it every day that it was him that did that. So maybe it wasn't Joe Madden.
True.
It's true. He'd still be talking about it. You're right.
He would wake up today and get in front of the media and be like, "Hey, I know we're in lockout, but you remember when I did that and put 4 guys on one side of the outfield?"
I'm actually surprised with them talking about getting rid of the shift that he's not on like a PR tour talking about the fact that he created it.
Yeah, right.
I broke baseball. Look at me.
Yeah. Or like that time he brought in 2 relief pitchers and it like to that loophole with the 3 batters face before, like the lefty like threw, then he put him in left field, brought in a new guy. He threw that 1 batter and then brought the left fielder back into pitch.
Yep.
Like, dude. But yeah.
So in terms
let
of
me
the
just
CBA,
say. Oh, go ahead.
No, sorry. Finish the thought, Sean. Before you want.
No, it was all I was just gonna say was all this. Like, I know it's all this lockout talk is frustrating, and I know like that's all there is going on right now to talk about. And I'll say this: if they go ahead and play baseball and the shift is banned, like I'm still gonna watch it. It's still an awesome game, and it's typically the game that we had watched up until about 5 years ago. right? Like
Right.
it's not this foreign game. I just think that sometimes
No.
we get to the point where we're trying too hard to please everybody. And it's
Mhm.
like, oh, well, if we don't ban the shift, then look at all these fans that are going to, claim to walk away and all these players that are upset and this, that, or the other, and it's just not that.
No.
I just think we're trying to appease everybody. Like if the numbers are out there and they say that this guy hits 80% of the balls to the right side, let them put 3 guys over there. And if this guy at the plate can make an adjustment and hit it the other way, tip your cap. But like, I don't know. I just think that creating these extra rules now I just, it's what it is,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I don't know.
I saw an interesting poll to that point, Sean. I saw a poll today that 55,000 people voted on it. It asked the question of if you had to pick one league to watch for the rest of your life, which one would it be? The winner was the NFL at 48%. MLB was second at 31% of the vote. And then
Because
the NBA was
sucks.
the NBA is at 9%, NHL is at 7%, and other was at 6%. But 31% of 55,000 voters said they would watch MLB over any other sport alone, which, I mean, we talk about the game's in trouble and we were texting back and forth about that Shriners game and how many people went to Minute Maid Park to watch college baseball. Baseball's healthy. Major League Baseball's screwed up.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
For sure. I think
it's the league.
But
It's
the problem is
right.
if MLB screws this up and hurts the fans, eventually you'll get that trickle down into the rest of baseball. But baseball, for the most part, is healthy. We just have to get MLB to fix itself and get itself back on track, and you should see those numbers even continue to improve.
Yeah.
But on those same lines, when you look at the CBA, there's really 2 major sticking points left now. The unions dropped the Super 2 expansion, which is the ability for those players to hit arbitration early. So the whole playing with the days of service nonsense, the union's kind of thrown that out at this point. It's like, okay, we're good. We're not going to deal with that. So they haven't fixed that major issue they screamed about. They've agreed to make no real changes to free agency. They've agreed to the expanded postseason, which they basically said they wouldn't do. And the two parts that are stuck is the competitive balance tax, which think of it as Major League Baseball's the old luxury tax or the the soft salary cap, and then the pre-arbitration pool. The league's offering $30 million in pre-arbitration money. The players want $80 million, and that pre-arbitration pool is paying those guys that are in that second and third year going to arbitration. It would allow their awards to get larger, and these guys to make more money earlier in the process. So that's one that they won't give up on. But then the competitive balance tax, the league wants to start at 220, so 220 million, and then go up to 230 in the course of 5 years. The players want to start at 238 and go all the way to 263. So they're pretty far apart on where the luxury tax begins. The problem in all that is that, and it's actually Major League Baseball pushed back on them in the last negotiating session and kind of caught them with their pants down, saying that moving the competitive balance tax up doesn't fix the competitive problems you're screaming that exist.
Right.
You're actually going to make them worse. So what do you guys actually want? So MLB was keeping the cap down because in their mind, it's going to keep more money in their pocket and also keep the gap from bottom to top lesser. The players are saying, we're never going to fix that. We want the top teams to spend like drunken sailors so we all make more money, and we'll let the Pirates of the world just continue to be useless and never go anywhere. So really, as should come to no surprise to anybody, this whole thing's about the money. Major League Baseball's grown. The players want a bigger piece of it. They feel like they got screwed in the last CBA, and they want to make up the ground. And that's what this whole thing. Players want more money. The owners don't want to give it to them. But nowhere in any of this are they actually fixing the competitive issues they've been claiming that exist. They're just trying to change the economics.
Yeah. Well, and that's part of the thing. Like the players have lost all these negotiations over the year, and it seems like they're the only ones that caving. So now the owners are just sitting there and being like, we're just going to hold our ground because we know the players are going to give in. And you know what I mean? Like the owners, what have the owners given up? Not a whole lot ever since.
They won't for the first month. If they start missing games in April and May, then you might see a different tune. But
possibly,
they're gonna hang through most of April. I mean, if we start baseball in the first or second week of May, that's almost like best case scenario for these owners. Like they got to play hardball.
Right.
They got to keep the things that they wanted to keep the most. They didn't lose any money out of their pocket, and they got the players to cowtail to them for another 5 years. Like that's almost best case scenario for them.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, it's frustrating. It's frustrating,
Yeah.
it's like politics in a sense where it's just like no one's giving you like the true story. Like you're getting like kind of how they feel, you're getting kind of what they want, but like they're not being honest about why they want what they say they want, and it's like it's exhausting. It's exhausting, you know.
Ken makes a point here. He doesn't like the shift either. You know, it is up to the batter to make adjustments. I think we've all said that. You know, like, but he's right. Like the home run is what's paying these guys. So all these guys have changed their approach to hitting. I think we've talked about it before, but Josh Donaldson came out with a video on the MLB Network where he was like, your coach always tells you to stay on top of the ball, right? And everyone's like, and he's like, it's completely wrong. You drop your bat head, you keep it in the zone for as long as you can, and you get the lift. That's how you get home runs. Because doubles and home runs get you to the MLB, you know, singles don't. So the whole approach of hitting now doesn't fit. You know, and that's why defense made the adjustment to the shift.
You know, but this is where like every professional sport, like it's cyclical, right? Like you think football, for example, right? Football, like for a long period of time had like big defensive linemen and big linebackers. So what did offenses do? Offenses would go out and draft and develop these hybrid tight ends and these small, quick running backs. And then defense adjusts by getting smaller and faster on defense. Now offense is going back to the running game. Like it's all baseball is the same way. What they need is they need that one franchise, and it's probably a team like the Tampa Bay Rays, right? To think big picture and go, you know what? I'm going to start filling my lineup with guys that can hit everywhere. Guys that can just hit 1 through 9, the guys that can get on base and guys that can hit. Not necessarily money ball get on base. I'm not talking drawing walks, but guys that can put the ball in play and just hit. We don't need to lead the league in homers. And by virtue, you're going to have years where you're up there in homers because these guys are freak athletes. You don't have to lead the league in homers every year. But if you have guys like not Joey Gallows, like if you have guys that can just get up and hit gap to gap, and then you step into one every once in a while, but you don't need to lead the league in home runs.
No.
Like that's where like the mentality's got to have to shift, and there's going to be a team out there that does it. There's going to be, and then defense is going to have to adjust again, right? You're going to see the shift go away on its own, but only once the players in one or two organizations make that adjustment, and everyone's following in on that Josh Donaldson video, Nick, that you. And I know the video is so fresh in my mind. I know exactly what it is, and it drives me nuts because that's only one approach to hitting. There is many ways to approach hitting, and that is one. And this guy did it very well at Auburn. He did it very well in the minor leagues, and he made a lot of money off of doing it, and that's great. But that would be like Tony Gwynn. I'm not comparing him to Tony Gwynn, but that'd be like Tony Gwynn going out there like, oh, all you got to do is just slap it through the shortstop. Oh, is that all you got to do, Tony? Really? That's it? Like, it's not easy. Like, there's more than one way to do it. And, like, Josh Donaldson with social media, and don't kid yourself, fantasy baseball and gambling plays a large role in this.
No, absolutely.
Large role in all major sports. I mean, football, all they care about is scoring now. Basketball, you see these NBA games ending like 135 to 131. All they care about is offense, and baseball is the same way. They care about home runs, they care about RBIs, and literally that's it.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to draft a guy in fantasy baseball that hits, 340. If he doesn't hit a lot of home runs, he doesn't get a lot of RBIs, that's not going to matter. And that's kind of what the game's going towards.
Are you drafting Joey Gallo or Ozzie Smith on your fantasy team? I mean, really?
Yeah, and it's not close. The guy that hits 190 and strikes out 200 times is the guy that you're going to draft.
Exactly.
It's insane.
And Doug's got a funny point. There are guys. I remember David Ortiz doing this one time, dropping a bunt down the left side, and literally walking to first base because there was nobody over there. It was completely wide open.
But you know what, though?
He could just strut.
But that's a win for the defense still.
I was just going to say that. Absolutely. You're taking the bat out of David Ortiz's hands to do that every time.
Oh, great. He's on first. He's got 0 speed. MLB The Show can back that up. 0 speed.
But at the same time, so here's a guy who got on base. It's a hit. You got a runner. Guy behind him hits the ball in the gap. I mean,
no. I don't disagree with you. But the problem, Harrison, is you're assuming that teams are built that way. Teams aren't built that
Oh, yeah,
way.
no, they're
teams are
not.
built for just the long ball. So
Yeah.
teams are built with guys like David Ortiz and Manny, and those are the guys that get. So once David Ortiz gets on, and you're the defense, you essentially take the bat out of his hands by letting him bunt. The next guy up there is going to try and lift off, and he's going to strike out because there's no team baseball anymore.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah, right. You're
gotta
assuming that
change
people are
the
going to
whole
get the guy
mentality.
around.
It's the whole mentality needs to adjust.
Yeah, gone are the days of get him on, get him over, get him in. Nobody does that. Nobody does that anymore. It's
Which
hit
is
it out, hit it out, hit it out.
I don't care what era you're from. I don't care if you grew up watching baseball in the 60s, now, or even younger than me. There is nothing more beautiful to watch than a leadoff double, get him over, get him in. It is, and I don't care who, even if it's against my team, I'm just like, that was nice. Like, it's team baseball. Like, that's why you watch the game.
Yeah.
Like, that's what we got to get back to.
Yeah, so here's an interesting stat. So when you look around the league at batting average on balls in play, so the famous BABIP, when you look at batting average and balls in play, the league average for batting average when the ball is put into play is nearly 300. So if when you put the ball in play, you've got a 3 in 10 chance of it being a hit by just getting it in play.
Which is Hall of Fame numbers.
Right. So these guys that go up there hacking and strike out 250 times, you mathematically can't hit better than 200.
Right.
Right. Yeah, crazy.
Right. I mean, but that's
Guy's
it.
got a funny point.
That's it though. But that goes to show you, like, that number right there, Harrison, that is a number on league average of batting average on balls in play without banning the shift. So even with the shift in full force that we've seen the past 2 years, you still have a 300 chance at getting a hit if you put it in play. So does that tell you that they should ban the shift? No, it tells you they should ban fucking guys like Joey Votto. I mean, Joey Votto.
Well, and really,
Joey Gallo. I love Joey Votto. Joey Gallo.
Yeah, we apologize, Joey Votto.
So sorry, Joey Votto.
But the funny thing
there goes our guest for next week.
Right. Yeah.
Those are the guys you should ban. Like,
what's funny is since the shift has started, batting average on balls and plays only dropped about 7 points.
It's a nothing burger. It's nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
It has not significantly altered the game because ultimately guys like Joey Gallo, shift or not, aren't going to hit better than 220 anyways. Like you're arguing over batting 200 versus 220. In both cases, you suck. You're just hitting a bunch of bombs, and that's great. You know, you're putting butts in seats and driving in some runs here and there, but you know, you're not a consistent threat at the plate anyways. It's all the other players in the league that don't get shifted on because they use all fields that are really driving that stat.
I think also it's like, you know, baseball's not being played. So everyone's just like trying to micro analyze everything.
Right.
You know, that's the other part of it too. It's like, is it annoying? Like, sure. But it's like the only thing we can talk about right now because nothing else is going on. So like, you know, like, I don't know. It's just like, I said, like I saw somebody complaining about the bases and I was like, listen, guys, you're not even going to notice it. When you're watching a game, you're not going to notice that base is 2 inches bigger. You're just not. I mean,
if MLB didn't tell you, I'd be willing to bet if you put 30,000 people in the stadium, you know, there'd probably be 100 that noticed it. That's it. Like
I wouldn't even say 100.
You're not going to know.
Yeah, absolutely. But well, let's hope
they're giving concessions on the stuff that doesn't friggin' matter.
Yeah.
And still grandstanding over the stuff that does.
Yeah, it's crazy. But so, like Sean said, I think hopefully by May we'll get something because once they get into month 2 of missing games, then it's going to be.
But I mean, you'll just see an entirely different demeanor, a whole different approach by the owners. You know, because that's when they start losing money, and when those billionaires start losing money, that's when things get solved. So.
Yeah, there is a belief around the league that most owners would prefer to miss April because they don't make as much in April anyways. That they really would prefer the season start in May. So there's not a lot of incentive right now for the owners to push to start the season because it doesn't matter to them.
Yeah, but it kills you too, and not to get like super, but like, I mean, what about these like people that work at these stadiums that depend on that job? I mean, that's a month of working games at the concession stand, or a month of, you know, doing, you know, those kinds of jobs. I mean, they work part-time and they work 3 jobs because they need to work part-time and they need to work those 3 jobs. And a billionaire is being like, well, I'm not making as much money in April as I do in June, so I don't we play. Well, like, no, I mean, I get it. I'm not saying it's, but I mean, let's think about those people too. I mean, think about Fort Myers. Fort Myers, 2 years ago, spring training was essentially canceled because of COVID. There was 2 weeks of spring training, and then COVID canceled it. And then last year we had spring training, and then this year we essentially don't have spring training. We have no idea when it's going to start. Like, there are cities down there that depend on spring training to make it through the year. I mean, they have nothing else down there except old people that are retired in spring training in March.
Yeah.
Like, and now we got billionaires being like, oh, well, they're not that important. Like,
well, and just all the local businesses around there too,
Right.
like all the tourism and things.
Yeah, the economic impact of these professional sports leagues, it completely
and
changes the area that they're in.
And I get the idea behind it too. Like, I get it sucks, but like they also have to look out for themselves. I get that. I'm not saying that like they owe it to these people and start writing them open checks. I'm not saying that, but like, I mean, like let's have a little bit of urgency trying to figure this out for the fans, for the players, for front office people, for everybody. Like, let's just figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Agreed.
So we're going to move on to baseball that's actually being played at this moment.
Woo!
Hell yes.
And we're going to do a college update. I'm going to be really sad during this segment. My Wolfpack fell out of the top 10.
Yeah, dude, we put the horns on them last Monday, and they have been terrible since last show. Oh my
goodness. So I think they've scored a combined like 3 runs in that 4-game stretch. It's been terrible. But we got top 10 right now. We got the top 3 stayed the same. So we got Texas, Ole Miss, and Arkansas at the top. They all stayed the same. Ole Miss and Arkansas do have a couple losses, and Texas I think lost their first game the other night. But
have you guys seen? I'm so bad. Let me look up. I'm so bad at names. But the big bastard for Ole Miss.
Can we just bring up Brian's point real quick?
I think we dropped Harrison. Oh, there he is.
No, I'm here.
If players are locked up, they should set up an exposition, set up one-on-one home run derbies like Tiger versus Phil the match. Like,
remember the old home run derby on TV?
Yeah, they used to do that back in the day, but guess what? That's like publicizing our game. So I think that's a terrible idea.
I'd watch classic style. I would watch classic style home run derby all day. Sign me up.
Absolutely.
I would subscribe to it because it would be so damn fun to watch.
Yeah. But the MLB doesn't think like that. They're so stuck in their old thinking that they can't think of ways to promote the game. It's terrible.
Well, I'm not a big fan of Alex Bregman, but if anybody has any interest on like a behind the scenes look at life in MLB, Alex Bregman does a vlog on YouTube that I stumbled upon a couple weeks ago and I watched an episode or two. He's actually set up like his own fake spring training with either minor leaguers or I don't know who he's with, but like he's going through a fake spring training on his own. It's
probably in his backyard that is $38 million a year paid for.
Right. I don't like Bregman, but it's really cool to see like the behind the scenes on what's going on from his perspective as he's getting ready for a season that hasn't started yet.
Yeah.
But he and a lot of players are basically setting up their own little fake spring training meetings. And these guys are, they're in the cages with each other. I know he's got some major leaguers there. I want to say there are maybe some former minor leaguers, people that he knows, but like these guys are running a fake spring training just so they can stay ready.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah.
I gotta say, I've actually enjoyed watching some of this college baseball lately. I haven't watched college baseball in years. It's been a lot of fun to watch.
I love it.
Absolutely.
There's this kid. So I found the name. Ole Miss, what are they? Are they 2 and
they're 2?
Arkansas 3?
2.
They're 2.
So Arkansas is 3.
They have this kid, Tywone Malone, who was a defensive tackle for their football team.
Oh,
But did you see the home run that he hit?
Yeah,
the 404-foot home run. Did you see it?
Yeah.
No.
It's about to come crashing through my window right now. That ball was fucking smoked. Like, these guys are – college baseball is the best, man, especially when you get these good teams at the top. The Texases, the Ole Misses, the Arkansas, the Vanderbilts, the North Carolina States. Like, those good, like, blue blood baseball programs, when they start getting on a roll, I mean, these guys 1 through 9. they just mash. Even not the home runs, you get balls that like exit velocity of like 115, like in the gap for a double. It's like, all right, that was sweet.
Yeah, it's
So-
crazy. So then we got Ken posted the link in the chat.
Oh,
so if you want to see it, he posted it.
It
Thanks,
was-
Ken. That's awesome. Yeah.
I mean, that
crushed.
ball was hammered.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's funny is
Oh.
that he's a big boy, but he doesn't look like that big until he stands next to other guys, and you're like, oh
Yeah.
my god,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
he does not from a distance appear to be that big. Then he stands next to the rest of the team, and it's startling.
And then
Like-
you got this kid. I know we touched on him last week, but this kid from Tennessee that pumps like 3 digits.
Yeah, Ben
Did you
Joyce.
see Joyce?
Oh my
Yeah. Did you
goodness,
see he had one? I saw just like a quick. I didn't watch the game, but a quick like highlight of his outing. He had like 4 straight pitches of like either 99 or 100, like outside corner at the knees. It's like, all right, sweet. Like, and the catchers do such a good job of framing it, and the whole thing is insane.
Dude.
They're so
I-
fun.
Yeah, it's crazy. So then the rest of the top 10, there was actually quite a bit of movement here. Vanderbilt moved up a spot. They went from 5 to 4. Stanford went from 6 to 5. And then Oklahoma State dropped down from the 4 to the 6. So
How on earth are they 6-4, ranked 6th in the country? I mean, they're 2 games over 500 and ranked 6th in the country.
it's because of their conference.
Good lord.
Because they're all playing. They got to be in that. What is it? The big what conference?
They're in
is
the Big
Texas
12.
playing?
Yeah, Big
Big
12.
They're in the Big 12.
So I mean, and listen, those top.
Oh yeah.
So 4 out of that top 6 are all that conference. Texas,
Yes.
Ole Miss, Arkansas,
No, Arkansas is in the SEC.
SEC.
Yeah, Arkansas is not.
But yeah, so I think it's just and it's probably who they've played already.
Yeah, that's wild.
Good.
Then you got Oklahoma State in the 6th spot, fell back from 4. Oregon State moved up to 7 from 13. Florida State, go Noles, my Noles, number 8. They came down from 10. Notre Dame's at 9 they moved from the 12th spot. And the biggest mover was Tennessee. They are 10-1, finally getting some respect, moving into the 10th spot from all the way back at 17.
Excuse me, they were not the biggest mover because NC State went from
Well,
8 to 22.
Biggest
That's the
positive
biggest-
mover.
Thank you.
Yeah, but NC State was playing like, blah 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 community college, and
They really were. And then
we knew that Tommy Tanks would slow down a little bit, and we knew that team
Mhm.
would slow down a little bit. Although Tommy Tanks went in the tank after our podcast, and I think we might have put the hex on him.
yeah, I'll have to tweet them and apologize.
Yeah, that might be our fault. We may own
Yeah.
that one.
But Mississippi State also dropped. They were at 9 and they went to 23.
Oof.
So, and they're like 6-6 now. But
Yeah, brutal.
Yeah, I know you guys, I was a little bit late on that. I know Tennessee moving up to 10. Tennessee's only loss is to Texas.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like they're 10-1 or 9-1, whatever it is, but their only
Yeah,
loss is
10-1.
Texas.
yeah, I wouldn't be
So-
surprised if we see them up higher.
Oh,
next
And what's
Tennessee's
amazing,
Tennessee's gonna keep climbing.
well, and you got a team in Clemson. They're 11-0 in the 19th spot. They weren't even ranked until this week. You got
Yeah.
a bunch of teams with 1 and 2 losses outside of the top 10 that, the minute one of these guys takes a hit, you're going to see another one of them jump up.
Yeah,
But
and
yeah,
Clemson's a
NC
team.
State.
Clemson's a team I
8-4.
would keep eyes on too, because that team mashes. They got another 3
Oh,
or
yeah.
4 guys that just tape measure home runs.
Yeah, there's a lot of really really good college programs that are just fun to watch.
Yeah. And a lot of these guys play great defense too. Like there's some great shortstop
yeah.
play. There's some great plays up the middle. But like you were saying, like the catchers, I think I'm the most impressed with. Like
They have
to have
such
the
their
hands that they have at this level already is
Ridiculous.
it's awesome to watch. But yeah, it's incredible. But yeah, since there's no baseball, seriously go watch. Like we said before, on ESPN Plus, you can literally pick almost any college game that's on. It's amazing, and it's totally worth the $6.99 a month or whatever. Like
yeah, exactly, something like that. It's
MLB
worth every
TV
penny.
can shove their $89-$99 a month, and then not play any games. But
Well,
yeah.
the other cool thing is, what makes you feel good about feel good about college baseball and baseball in general was that Shriners Classic over the weekend, which if you can still you can still rewatch some of those games on ESPN, but there were some absolutely incredible games played, some amazing teams in there. Ultimately, Baylor beat LSU to win it, but you had a nearly full house in Houston to watch college baseball. And these kids put on a show. They played some really good baseball on a professional field in front of big crowds, big television audience. It was really, really entertaining. And if you have any interest in college baseball, these kinds of tournaments and being able to rewatch some of these games would be a lot of fun because these were good games, really good games, really competitive games.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the only baseball on right now because we all know that they don't televise minor league that much, and they haven't started. So definitely go out and root on your favorite college team.
I'd also like to point out that in the D3 world, USM, University of Southern Maine Huskies, are number 2 in the D3 world.
So they moved
number
up.
2
I
in
saw
New
them at
England in the
5.
D3 world.
Yeah, that's awesome. But yeah, so a lot of great baseball being played. So definitely watch it. Anything else on college before we move on?
No,
I don't think so.
If you haven't watched it lately, watch it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It'll restore your faith in baseball.
All right, so we're going to move on to the 7th inning stretch. So this is where we announce our second round winners here, and then I will do a score update after that. Okay, so here we go. Our first matchup was Babe Ruth against Cy Young, and we went with the Babe. I mean,
kind of hard.
Yeah, tough for the That's pretty. I'd say a pretty straightforward one, but
yeah, 2 absolute legends. But I feel like it's hard to vote. It's hard to go against Babe Ruth unless it's somebody on a whole nother level.
Yeah, absolutely. Then our second matchup was Ken Griffey Jr. against Mike Schmidt, and we went with Jr. there. Just more career home runs. What Griffey brought to the probably the best all around player in our generation.
And he ushered in the new era of baseball. I mean, baseball changed a lot when he came in with the backwards hat and the big smiles and the styled cleats and the flip up sunglasses. I mean, he changed a lot of how baseball is perceived and ushered in that new generation.
Yeah.
He did. Not to say it was an easy one, though, because Mike Schmidt's probably the best third baseman of all time. So that, not to say that it was like an easy one. I actually think, if we remember correctly, I don't totally know if I remember, but I think I might have had Mike Schmidt in my bracket. I'll have to look that up. But close, like very, very close one. But I just think with what Griffey brings to the overall game, and again, what you guys touched on, just kind of the new generation of it. And again, I mean, all of us, we played Little League. All of us wanted to wear number 24.
Oh my God.
If you were the best player on your team, you wore 24. Like, that's just how it worked. And that was directly because of Griffey. So
yeah, he has one of the most imitated batting stances ever. I mean, we all wanted to be 24. I wore his cleats when I was playing Babe Ruth baseball. Like, everybody wanted to be Griffey, and he deserves, the recognition for what he did, not just on the field, but what he did for the game. He really did change the game.
Absolutely.
But it breaks my heart a little bit to see Mike Schmidt go out. I love Mike Schmidt.
Yeah.
Oh, so do I.
Absolutely. This next one is an absolute killer. Ted Williams against Roberto Clemente. I mean, Roberto Clemente is my favorite baseball player of all time. But we did go with Ted Williams here. I mean, this guy was or is the best all-around hitter ever. I just can't.
Yeah, I think is.
Really...
I mean, I think is. I still think it. I think he is. And I think he probably will be, considering the way we're seeing the trend of hitting as a science going down and the raw powers and numbers is taking more precedence. Like, I don't think you're ever going to see the tactician the way that, I mean, again, we talk about changing the game. I mean, without Ted Williams, there's no guys like Tony Gwynn. Like, they just don't exist.
No, Ted Williams invented the science of hitting. Like, there's nobody that studied hitting.
I mean,
studied approach, pitches, locations.
Right. They didn't exactly. They didn't approach hitting that way. Like there were naturally talented hitters in
Sure.
every era, no doubt. But like the approach of the way that we approached our first at bat versus our second at bat versus setting pitchers up for the third at bat, like all that thing was calculated down to a number. It was a science. And I know we love our numbers, we hate our numbers, and this, that in between. But like, I mean, he did it better than anybody.
Yeah, I mean, this was a really tough one because, like I said, like
it was.
Clemente had all five tools, cannon for an arm, 3,000 hits, like on the dot. I think he's the only MLB player to have exactly 3,000 hits.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, Williams, great hitter. That's it. I mean, but like, I mean, he's not even just a great hitter though. Like the best.
He
I don't know.
changed hitting. I mean, we all love the little hot and cold zones they show on TV, the little 9 squares. Like literally, Ted Williams created that in the notebook and tracked it for himself. Like that's how far ahead of baseball Ted Williams was.
Yeah, I mean, we're not saying Roberto Clemente is a slouch at all. I mean, we could have flipped the coin. We spent a lot of time on this one. We just couldn't. We put their numbers side by side. We did a lot of that, like what each brought to the game. Like this was not an easy pick by any means, but I mean, one's got to move on, and it just we went with Ted.
I mean, I think the hard thing with Roberto Clemente, and again, I mean, certainly not his fault. I think, I mean, he died. I mean, he still had plenty of good years left in him. I mean, who knows? I mean, Roberto Clemente might have ended up with 3,500 hits. I mean, 3,000 when he died in a plane crash. He still had, a handful of years ahead of him at least. But then when you apply the same logic to Ted Williams, missed 3 years going into the war, still ended up with a career 482 on base percentage, which is
482
ridiculous.
is insane.
And he missed
for
3
career
prime years. He missed his 24, 25, 26 year seasons. Like Ted Williams didn't miss, Roberto Clemente missed his like age 38, 39, 40-year-old seasons. Would he have been productive? Sure. But Ted Williams came off of a season where he hit 36 home runs, 137 RBIs, 356 batting average. And then, by the way, missed the next 3 seasons to the military and came back at 27 and still hit 342 after taking 3 years off. I mean, it's just freakish.
Got on base at 497. Guy took 3 years off from the war and came back and got on base 1 out of every 2 times.
It's stupid.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with Brian. It's some of these early round matchups are just awful.
Yeah.
Like it just hurts to have a matchup this early because you can't give some of these guys the respect they deserve because of who they draw. Roberto Clemente is only going to get beaten by probably a handful of guys. Just so happens Ted Williams is one of them, and he got him in the second round.
Right.
Oh man. So we're gonna.
Can we please take note of this one? Thank you, Ken.
Yeah. Oh, nice getting props. Love that. Yeah. I mean,
all right.
We've talked about it before. Baseball's like the biggest what if sport, especially with all those guys in like the Williams era that, Willie Mays went to war. DiMaggio, like everybody
went too. Yep.
Yeah. Everybody went. So like it's the greatest what if, because if Mays didn't go to the military, he could have passed Babe Ruth. He was hitting 45 home runs a year, 90 more home runs, he would have passed Babe Ruth. So like, it's crazy. But all right. So moving on to the next matchup, we got Walter Johnson against Tony Gwynn. And we went with Tony Gwynn here. We went hitting instead of the pitching. And we kind of, I think if I remember right, we went kind of just like generationally, right? Because sure, Walter Johnson might have been able to throw hard or whatever for that era, but what was hard in that era? 85, 86?
Well, yeah, but I mean, that's the hard thing too,
though. In the high 90s, but
that's the rumor, but how do you verify? I mean, I think again, with the Walter Johnson, like the one thing that's really, really difficult, like I don't care how hard you threw. I don't care how mediocre the hitters were, like whatever. I mean, this guy has 110 shutouts in his career.
Crazy.
I mean, he's got 110. Like that's obviously leads all time, and that's never going to be touched again. I mean, so I don't know. I'll have to look at mine. I can't remember who I picked in this one on like my individual one. I think Tony Gwynn, though, the generational argument on Tony Gwynn is if Tony Gwynn wasn't in San Diego, now again, biggest what if, and he was in San Diego, and he did end up not winning a World Series, and they made it to one, and they lost, and I get all that, but like, I mean, Tony Gwynn was our generation of Ted Williams in that sense, of a guy that was just like the purest hitter. He didn't have the power numbers that Ted Williams had, but I mean, it was just, I mean, the guy hit 390 a couple of times in his career.
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
Absolutely.
I look at a couple things with Tony Gwynn. So Tony Gwynn faced Greg Maddux, Tom Glavine, Pedro Martinez, and John Smoltz 323 times during his career. He struck out only 3 times. I consider at least 2, if not 3, of those guys to be better overall pitchers than Walter Johnson was. Secondly, Tony Gwynn faced Greg Maddux 107 times in his career, and I consider Greg Maddux a better pitcher than Walter Johnson. He hit .415 against Greg Maddux and never struck out in 107 at-bats.
Jeez.
And then
crazy.
to really blow your mind for a second, Giancarlo Stanton struck out 514 times in the last 3 seasons. Tony Gwynn struck out 434 times in his career. I mean,
I'm actually surprised it's that high, if we're being honest.
yeah,
Right.
but I mean, when you look at Gwynn's stats against elite pitching, I mean, there's no contest. If he went out there against Walter Johnson at both of them at their prime, Tony Gwynn's going probably 3 for 4 with a ground out. I mean, he's not. There's no way. I mean, the guy absolutely ate elite pitching for lunch.
Yeah.
Although the team
That's a
around
good
him was
point. I
terrible.
mean, that's
he
I'll
ate
take
elite
that.
pitching for lunch, and he wore him out.
Absolutely.
I'll take that.
Our next matchup was that was the top bracket. So Ruth Griffey, Ted Williams, and Tony Gwynn move on from that top bracket. So they make it to the Sweet 16, right?
Woo.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
So now we got Willie Mays against Jackie Robinson, and we went Willie Mays here. I mean,
You have to, but tip your hat to Jackie for everything he did for the game.
right. Everything he did in the game, but Jackie just doesn't have the numbers that Willie Mays has, and it's not close.
And the longevity. I mean, don't take away. I mean, the numbers are one thing too, but for Willie Mays to do what he did for his, what was it, 20? How many years? 22.
25. He had 24 All-Star appearances.
Okay, so there we go. Yeah, I mean that's insane. That's absolutely
That's
ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I mean, Jackie,
crazy.
love
Oh,
you, Jackie,
God.
but I mean, it's the numbers. They don't compare.
The dude only made the All-Star team every single year of his career except for his last year.
Yeah.
It's nuts. Oh my goodness. Then we got Pete Rose against Ricky Henderson. Also kind of an interesting one here, but we went with the hit king Pete Rose in this one.
Yeah, it's hard not to.
Yeah.
Love Ricky and everything he did, but when a guy's got more than 4,000 hits, I don't know that there's a lot of people that
something, right? I mean,
I don't think it's a lot of people that are gonna beat him.
I know, but Ricky Henderson had that many stolen bases, so
He did. Man, if Pete Rose could run like Ricky Henderson with that many hits, he would have had like 20,000 stolen bases.
I can't even imagine what that number would be. I can't.
No. Could you imagine getting on base like that and how many stolen bases Ricky would have had? I mean, Christ.
Yeah, there's a reason why I teach special ed math, because I can't count that high.
No, there's not enough fingers and toes for me to get to
No,
that point.
absolutely not. But yeah, so we're gonna move on. We got Lou Gehrig against Nap LaJoy, and Lou Gehrig takes the cake on that one. Kind of a no-brainer. I mean, although we have talked about Nap LaJoy's stats last week, and they're very impressive. However, it was like 1870 to like 1890, so it's like really hard to
1896 to 1960. I mean, the guy played forever. Insanely good stats. I mean, he hit 426 in 1901, but you just can't compare the two. It's not easy to draw a comparison like that.
No. This was also a tough one here. We got Stan Musial against Johnny Bench, and we went with Stan the Man here. But I mean, this one could. Oh yikes! Sorry, Ken.
Yeah,
another one. I mean, this is also another coin flip, but we spent a lot of time on these two, compared the numbers here, and man, it's so hard, but we did choose Stan.
Yeah, I mean, Stan Musial. I mean, you guys know how I feel about Stan Musial. I mean, he got 3 MVPs. He missed 1 year for military service in 1945, so he didn't miss the 3 years or whatever that Ted Williams did. But up until his last year in 1963, started in 1941, and he played until 1963. And every year except for 1963, and then 59 and 60. So what's that? 19 out of 22 years the guy hit over 300. And I'm not talking like 301. Like we're talking 365, 376, 338, 346, 350, like I mean just an absolute automatic.
Yeah.
You know.
I love Johnny Bench, but I think honestly I don't think the comparison is as close as people think. I know people immediately go to Johnny Bench, best catcher of all time, all around, blah, blah, blah. But when you look at his career stats, and I get it, he was a catcher. You've got to hedge for that a little bit. But career batting average of 267, 389 home runs, 2,048 hits. Stan Musial, career batting average of 331, 475 home runs, 3,630 hits. Johnny Bench was, not even close. Love Johnny Bench. But like statistically, he wasn't even in the same zip code or region of the map that Stan Musial was in.
Not as a hitter, no. I mean,
No,
Johnny
not
Bench
as a
had
hitter,
10
no.
gold gloves, though. 14
Absolutely.
All-Star games, 10 gold gloves, 2 MVPs, 2 World Series MVP. So, I mean, the numbers, like if you just do the numbers side by side, like the numbers themselves don't add up. But, I mean, Johnny Bench was an integral part of that, like, ridiculous run that those Cincinnati Reds went on. Like, absolutely. Integral piece.
Yeah, I mean, Stan Musial was a 24-time All-Star. He won 7 batting titles, 3 MVPs, 3 World Series, 2 Major League Players of the Year. I mean, it's insanity. I mean, it's insanity. I love them both, but Stan Musial in a landslide, I think, beats Johnny Bench.
So we got Mays, Rose, Gehrig, and Musial moving on to the Sweet 16. Before we get to the other side of the bracket, we got a news bulletin.
We do?
MLB suggests Tuesday as a deadline. So they said it needs to be reached by tomorrow for a full 162 game season. So they're still trying to push for 162.
What they're trying to do is see if they can get the players to crumble. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to lever them at any chance they get.
This just goes to show that Manfred has no effing clue what's going on.
No.
He's like, oh, yeah, we're going to cancel the first 3 series, which tells me that you can't play 162 if you cancel the first 3 series, unless my math is wonky. But now they're saying that they could possibly squeeze them in. I don't know. I'm lost. But
well, I wonder if it was. Whatever. I wonder if that was more like if we're gonna squeeze them in the sense of like we're just it's spring training, right? We canceled those first 2 series, but actually, oh, by the way, we are going to play on March 31st, but you guys now only have 2.5 weeks to get ready because that's not going to cause problems.
Yeah, there's no way. But I think it's proof that Rob Manfred is. I mean, he was here last time there's a labor stoppage. He's there again. It's here we go.
Yeah. Oh, all right. So whatever. We're done with that until we actually get some real news.
All right. Other side.
All right. So other side here, we had Hank Aaron against Rogers Hornsby, and that's a no-brainer. That goes to Hammer and Hank.
Yep.
No-brainer there. This one was interesting for us. We also went back and forth on this one. Steve Carlton and Jimmy Fox. And we kind of felt that lefty-righty matchup kind of really led towards Jimmy Fox here. Jimmy Fox's power numbers at that era that he played in were impressive. I mean,
silly.
No one did it at that time.
I mean, Jimmy Fox still, regardless of the power numbers, I mean, like 534 career home runs, 1,922 RBIs, had 2,650, ended up with 2,646. So still, I mean, we're talking, I mean, 2,646 hits is nothing. Career, what was it? 325, I think I saw career 325 hitter. So
yeah,
I mean, I'm a big Steve Carlton guy. Like I love him. but I went with I think I might have had Carl, but I can't remember. But
Well, and ultimately, what does Carlton in is the inconsistency. You know, he goes 17-11, then 10-19, then 20-9, then 27-10, then 13-20, then 16-13, 15-14.
Yeah.
Like he was all over the place. He puts up a 27-10 season with a 1.97 ERA, comes back the next year, goes 13-20 with a 3.9. You know, the guy put up good
Right.
stats in aggregate and had 3 or 4 just absolutely gross dominating seasons, and then a bunch of okay seasons. He was so dominant for small windows and then pretty average otherwise.
Yeah. Hey, Ken says lefty righty. Yeah, Carlton was a lefty, right? Jimmy Fox hit
Carl was a
righty.
lefty.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
Jimmy
it's-
Fox hit right-handed. So yeah, lefty righty. But yeah. But yeah. All right. So
The
we're
Phillies and they sucked. You're not wrong. They were
Right.
terrible, but how do you go 27-10 and then follow it up with a 13?
No, but 4 Cy Youngs is still 4 Cy Youngs is still 4
Oh, yeah.
Cy Youngs. You know.
Yeah. And Brian says, "Don't make excuses for picking hitters. They play every day. Pitchers are specialists." I mean,
Yeah.
you're not wrong, unless you're Cy Young and you play every day. But whatever.
That's true.
Oh, don't even get me started on that shit.
Nope. Moving on.
All right. So next one here, we got Roger Clemens against Mickey Mantle, and we went with the Rocket here.
Roger. Yeah.
I mean,
Now we're picking a pitcher over
now
here.
we picked a pitcher over a hitter. I mean, Roger Clemens' stats are stupid. They're filthy. I mean, he's
Roids.
whatever, roids or not, he's still got to go out there and do it, man.
Yeah, this is a tough one though. I mean, Mickey Mantle leading the league in home runs 4 times, 3-time MVP. You know, I just think 18 years. You know, we got a shade under 300. I think 298 or 299. I think I saw for the career batting average for Mickey Mantle. I don't know. I think Roger Clemens is the greatest pitcher I've ever seen. Like I can't say best all time because I'm only 31 years old, but like best pitcher I've ever seen, to me, it's Roger Clemens. And
yeah, I mean Clemens, 7-time Cy Young, 2-time Triple Crown winner, 7-time ERA title holder, 2-time World Series champion, MVP, All-Star Game MVPs. I mean, it's just gross the number of awards he got. But 7 Cy Youngs, 2 Triple Crowns, and 7 ERA titles. I mean, holy crap!
Yeah, but that's who we choose. So it's Roger Clemens there over Mantle. And then this next matchup was actually kind of fun. We have Pedro against Ichiro, and we could actually look up exactly how these guys did against each other.
Same as Ichiro and
the same as
Mariano.
Ichiro and Mariano. So that's just the way that it matched up. Does
character count? If it's in the Hall of Fame, it does.
Yeah, right. But yeah, I mean, if it was character, it totally would not be Clemens. He would have been gone in the first round. But yeah, so this one was cool. We could actually Google stats with Pedro against Ichiro, and Ichiro did not fare well against Pedro. He was like 1 or like 4 for like 30 something. I think it was.
Yeah, it was like a 140 something or 130 something average. Isn't that what we saw?
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, that one was cool that we could actually look up the stats against each other. So, so it's Pedro on that one. So we'll have Hank Aaron against Jimmy Fox. We'll have Roger Clemens against Pedro in the next round. And then we'll move down to our final bracket here to get to the Sweet 16. We got Ty Cobb and Ernie Banks. This one was a really hard one for us as well. I mean, Ty Cobb has all the numbers. Ernie Banks changed the shortstop position to what it is, still today, a power position. But we did ultimately go with Ty Cobb here. Just like the career hits he had, the tenacity that he had on the field was just unmatched.
Yeah, 12-time batting title, 12 batting titles, a Triple Crown, an MVP. He had, 2 seasons better than 400. and a bunch of seasons right around 400. Like, I don't care what era you're in, the guy's numbers are obscene. Career batting average of 366, almost 4,200 hits. I mean, and and one guy you did not want to see running at you.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So Ken says we're playing.
He's calling us homers.
Listen, we eliminated David Ortiz in the first round, buddy.
I know, calling us homers.
Listen,
it's not our fault. The Red Sox had a lot of good players play for them.
I'm not against what Ken is saying. Like, I probably did side a little bit more, but like Ichiro is not better than Pedro.
No, and we had the stats to prove it. You can look it up. You can look it up. The head-to-head matchup, Pedro against Ichiro, and it's not good. It's not, and it's a fairly good sample size.
Yeah.
So, anyways, okay. So we got Ty Cobb on that first one. Then we got the Battle of the Joes. We got Joe DiMaggio against Joe Morgan. And this was interesting too, because we did a lot of research on this one. And I guess like our first initial reaction was Joe DiMaggio. And then we like really dove into the numbers and stuff. And we were like, wow, Joe Morgan was legit. So we went Joe Morgan in that matchup there. Yep. Again, a huge part of that Big Red Machine. And then Joe DiMaggio. But
you're right there, Nick. You're fading, bud.
Yeah, I'm fading hard. I'm like,
I was like, is he gonna finish a thought? Like, what's going on?
I got nothing.
I want to jump in and say something, but I want to let him finish.
So did I. I was like, I didn't know if he was done.
Foggy, go. Just go. Take me out of my misery.
No, I just think, we were just Joe Morgan. I mean, I think you talk about big part of the Big Red Machine, right?
So
which he was. I mean, integral part. But I mean, he first 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It looks like first 7 years in Cincinnati as an All-Star. On base percentage of well over 400 for almost all of those years. 2 MVPs back-to-back years in 75, 76. DiMaggio, it's tough because he did lose those 3 years. Like, I think it was the same years that Ted Williams missed. But I mean, it's hard. He still had 3 MVPs and he played like 7 less years. So like, I totally am willing to. I was totally either way on these two. I think Joe Morgan had the longevity, obviously, with the 20 years or 19, 21, somewhere around their years. But this was really, I think, probably the biggest toss-up. I think this was the biggest toss-up, probably not of just this round, but I think of probably the whole bracket.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I agree. So Brian's been able to accept our arguments for most of these picks, but does not agree with Clemens over Mantle.
Well, I mean, Clemens over Mantle's a hard one because you're comparing a pitcher versus a hitter, different eras. But here's, if you're going to pick one thing and say, okay, how do I decide the difference? Roger Clemens' career WAR was 139.2. Mickey Mantle's is 110.2. If they were a few points apart, I'd say, yeah, you're close. But you're talking almost 30 points of WAR for, ranked against their generation, their era. So in the time that they played, Clemens was in theory the more valuable. Now Mantle was a 20-time All-Star and a 7-time World Series champion. Didn't do that by himself. Clemens, 7 Cy Youngs, 2 Triple Crowns, 7 ERA titles. Cy Youngs, Triple Crowns, and ERA titles. That's you. That's all. I mean,
the steroid-aided stuff, though. Like, I guess, but like, he's playing against a lot of other guys that were taking steroids too. Like, it's to me like that. A lot of that stuff kind of cancels out. Like it's if you're the one guy that's doing it, then yeah, absolutely. Like,
sure.
Put the flag. But like, I mean, we got a lot of guys. Yeah. Clemens played 30 games a year. I get that. I get that 100%. Yep. But by playing 30 games a year, he was more of what was his career WAR? 100 what?
Clemens 139.2.
Yeah. For playing 30 games. I mean, that's pretty damn valuable, man.
And Mantle was at 110. I mean, you're talking nearly 30 points of WAR for, benchmarked against their peer group. Was Mantle a terrific player? Hell yeah. But arguably, statistically, in all the metrics that you put out there, and the metrics that are really individually driven, Clemens, in theory, was the more dominant player. Doesn't take anything away from Mantle. Mantle was a stud of his generation, but I just don't think the comparison between Mantle and Clemens is quite as close as it might appear on the surface. It's like Musial versus Bench. that's a landslide in terms of the stats. But bench means a lot in terms of being the best catcher of all time and what he did. This is not always a simple decision.
Yeah, I agree.
What the hell is WAR?
Okay, go ahead. You explain it.
I'm going to give you a really basic explanation of WAR. WAR is basically wins above replacement. So what it does is it benchmarks if you were to put an average replacement player on the team, how many more wins does this player generate than the average replacement player? So if you took Clemens off the teams he was on and put on an average major leaguer for that time, Clemens is worth how many more wins being on the team than that average player? Think of it that way. So in his career, Roger Clemens created 140 additional wins for the teams he was on than your average player, where Mantle only created 110. And that's driven.
Only.
Well, yeah, right. Sorry, and generated 110. So all it's saying is that when you benchmark these guys against their peer group in the era they played in, Clemens was more dominant and more valuable. Doesn't mean he was a better player overall than Mantle, not necessarily. But when you're trying to compare against generations, you've got to have something you can lean on that helps distinguish what they looked like compared to the group they played with.
And this is the only stat right now that does that
Correct.
You can actually physically and visually see, comparing generations,
and I'll be when it first, I hated WAR when it first came out.
Yeah.
I thought it was dumb, but the more the more I've heard about it and the more that it's been explained to me, I'm like, I get it. It's still not my favorite stat. Like some people love it more than I do. It's still not my favorite stat, but I certainly understand the value of it. And I can look at it in a way and go, you know what? You got me. Like that one, that makes sense, so take it for what it's worth. But.
And the one nice thing about WAR is it takes into account all facets. So it's looking at base running, fielding. It's looking at things like, range factors. And so it's not just like, did he get more wins? Did he get more strikeouts? Did he hit more home runs? It's looking at all value, base running, fielding, pitching, all the different things, and then adjusting for the league average to come back and say, this player creates this many more wins because of what they've done. Yeah. Is it perfect? No. But it's the best thing we've got. Yeah, and I agree with Stacy. I like WAR because it's kind of that great equalizer. It's not.
You agree with her saying it was a great explanation?
Well, obviously, I agree with that part.
That's
but I agree with her that I part of me hates
very
the WAR
Reggie
stat.
Jackson of you.
Yeah, I'm just here so I don't get fined. But I do. Part of me hates the WAR stat because it boils all of baseball down to a number, a single number that is.
And that's I think that's where my initial aversion came from.
It's hard to get behind it, but when you actually look at what goes into WAR, it's probably the most comprehensive way to measure the impact a player has on his team.
Yeah.
Is it perfect? No. It's pretty good. And there's situations like this, measuring players across generations. It's the only damn thing we've got.
Right. Yeah. Other than the eyeball test, but even then, there was no eyeballs on Napla Joy in 1870.
No.
So. Yeah, that was a great explanation, Harrison. I don't think I could have done it any better than that, for sure.
Yeah, so for the hell of it, anybody wants to read a little further, I just put the link to the actual Major League Baseball definition of WAR in it. It's a cool stat. Is it perfect? No. But there's certain applications of it that make a lot of sense.
Yeah, like Joey Gallo's defensive WAR. But
they want a gold glove.
I can't, but. All right, so we're gonna move on to what was that point by Brian?
It's the whole argument about pitcher versus hitter.
Yeah, I mean, Clemens WAR for 709 games started. Mantle against 2,400 games played. His 110 WAR is getting you more wins than Clemens 140.
Yeah, WAR is taking into account the entire picture, so it also does give you positional adjustment. So it knows that Clemens is only playing 30 games a year versus Mantle's, 155, whatever he averaged. But I mean,
Ken's got a point too. He said you may not use WAR for all these selections. I'll be honest.
No,
I certainly didn't compare WAR on each and every one of these. No, that's actually a good point because we probably didn't.
No, we didn't.
But I think, yeah. I think some of them it's where it was, it was kind of used as the
Tiebreaker, kind of.
exclamation point, if you
Yeah.
will, to be
Right.
like, well, the war was this versus that.
Well,
Is
and
probably where it came into effect most often.
And Clemens and Mantle's a great example of why you would use it. How the hell can I compare the two of them side by side? Like pitcher, hitter, different generations. We talked about the impacts they had, the things they did for the game, the stats they had, how good they were at the time. But ultimately, WAR is the only number we can lay side by side that's actually giving us a good comparison. But did we use it all the time? No, there are plenty of times it didn't get used at all. And then there were plenty of Ken's calling us homers again.
Yeah, it just comes back to the original point of us picking
homers.
Red Sox.
We're homers. Homers.
Oh god.
Yeah,
Love
but in some cases, WAR, to Sean's point, was an exclamation point of why it was the right decision. In some cases, it was we needed some number to put side by side and say, how do we compare these guys?
Yeah, absolutely.
Could you make an argument for Mantle over Clemens? Absolutely, and we
100%.
did.
Mm-hmm.
And we ultimately felt like Clemens was the when you come back to it and measure it in a bunch of different ways. Clemens took
we
it.
spent like 2.5 hours on this. Like,
oh man, it was
not easy. But
and there was some good debate. Even when we thought it was unanimous, we would still debate it to make sure we weren't missing something.
Yeah,
there was a lot of good debate. We were throwing stats and figures and
awesome.
all kinds of stuff back and forth. So
yeah. All right, so we got the last two matchups right here. We got Barry Bonds against Yaz. Okay, I mean, I don't know how to tell you this, Ken, but we did pick another Red Sox here.
Yeah. No, we did.
I'm just kidding.
We
picked
did not. We picked Barry.
No, you should have played that one out for a minute.
Don't even tease that.
Hey, look at that. A Red Sox player in the bracket lost.
Yep. So
Look at
Barry
that.
Bonds
Don't even
obviously
tease
moves
that.
on. I mean, for all of whatever Barry did during his career is just insane.
I mean, Yaz Hall of Fame.
I'm not a Barry Bonds fan, and I picked him.
It's not close.
It's
no,
not even close.
absolutely not.
God love
No.
Yaz, but it was not even close.
No. And then Randy Johnson against Bob Gibson here. This was like another argument that went on quite a while because Bob Gibson had those 2 or 3 seasons where he was completely dominant. And then Randy Johnson had that 4 consecutive Cy Youngs in a row in Arizona where no one could touch him. And they were all over 330 strikeouts all 4 of those years, right?
Randy, yeah, but let me get them right up in front of you because they weren't. It's not like they were close. They blew it out of the water.
No, so Randy Johnson had 364, 347, 372, and 334.
372.
And keeping what's even scarier is he did that during his age 35, 36, 37, and 38 seasons.
Jesus.
This was not a young guy striking out
did it.
350 guys.
But he did it 1999. So the first and then the fourth year he led the league in innings. So he had 271.2 in 99 and then 260 in 2002. But 2001 he pitched 249.2 innings. He had 372 Ks.
372 Ks, man.
Yeah.
It's
Randy Johnson had
insanity.
303 career wins. He only lost 166 games.
That
with
might
a
be to me
3.29
that
ERA in the steroid era.
Yeah.
That might have been the craziest part for me was when looking at Randy Johnson's numbers. The 22 years he pitched, he only had 166 losses.
Yeah, I mean, God love Bob Gibson, but it wasn't even close.
Yeah.
We're gonna
I
get
love
trolled
it.
with this war now for the rest of this thing.
Oh Jesus, here we go.
We're just gonna get war trolled.
Well, the nice thing is we picked Randy Johnson anyways because the stats jump off the sheet at you.
Right.
But yes, the
Yeah.
war argument works here too.
Oh, my
Look at
goodness.
Ken's actually proving our point for us. I love it.
All right.
I love when the viewers actually prove our point.
All right, so we got in this bracket to end so these guys finish off the Sweet 16 for next week. You got Ty Cobb against Joe Morgan, and then we got Barry Bonds against Randy Johnson. And that will be our Sweet 16 for next week. So our scoring update as we go right now. We have Ken at 32 points. We have Scott at 42 points. Josh at 45. Morgan at 46. And Stacy with a slight lead at 51. So that
And
is
if you look at the
lead.
war on that, I think Stacy also has the higher war, so she's clearly winning.
Right. So that's our scoring updates for. Thank you, Ken. Really appreciate it. This has been a blast for us. So we love doing this stuff.
Bunch of homers like we are.
Yeah, it's all right. I can take it.
I love it.
But all right. So yeah, that will do the second round for that, and we'll come back for the Sweet 16 next week. So rounding third, we threw out the question, since there's no baseball, like what would you guys rather what would you rather watch, minor league baseball or college? I mean, so it kind of fits into our fifth inning that we did. You guys had
Yeah, and also
tons of
give
war
us-
back in
and
your
just to-
day, you thought, Ken.
Just to, yeah, nice Nick.
Wow.
But just to
Jesus.
hammer that, not just what are your favorites, like what do you guys do? Is there a particular couple teams you guys want us to talk? I mean, give us some things to watch. Like because I'll be honest, personally, I'm tired of talking about the lockout. Like until they're done with it,
agreed.
because we just go over
my
the
God.
same things over and over again.
Right.
Like give us some teams. Do you guys have favorite college teams or minor league teams or I mean, there's some minor league spring training, so at least maybe we can try and find some
Yep.
things like that to bring up and talk about, and things like
Yeah.
that I think would be great.
So my brother-in-law actually works for the Hartford Yard Goats, who's the AA for the
Nice.
Rockies. So yeah, he's like Hartford Yard Goats, baby, all the way. And I was like, all right, like I get it.
I'm in. Let's
Yeah.
go to a game.
And they just built that ballpark. I guess it's gorgeous. I haven't been there. My wife has, but
Sarah's family lives right down there. That's where she's from. And so we went to a game. We went to a game last year. And it is, but the cool thing, like it's literally in the middle of Hartford. And it's like they just took like a crane and just kind of dropped it. Like I don't know how they would have built it, because like there's no like space.
yeah,
So it's like they built it somewhere else and then they just kind of dropped it in the area where it fits. But
Right.
it's a neat minor league ballpark.
yeah, that's awesome. Morgan said college, and he's been hooked on the Ben Joyce train at Tennessee. He said he's just been watching that kid throw.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Yeah, it's gross.
yeah. I mean, and I've been hooked. I've been on the NC State train, man, for like been in women's college basketball. Went to their semifinals and their finals this weekend. And then going right to baseball and softball after. So can't wait. But
how's their softball team?
I haven't actually even looked yet. Because I'm trying to just get tickets into the baseball game.
Yeah, I was just curious.
Which is like impossible right now because of thanks Tommy Tanks. So hopefully people will start selling those, because now he's like in an offer skid.
So those tickets are going to become available all of a sudden.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. If anyone's looking, like Texas is a team that's on ESPN Plus a lot, because the Longhorns have like their own contract with ESPN. So I think pretty much all of their games are on ESPN Plus. Florida State, I see Harrison doing his thing.
Seminoles, baby.
Hear discussion on the greatest All-Star games. Yeah, sure. Greatest
Well, that's
All-Star.
a good one.
There's been a ton of great All-Star
That is
games.
a
We can start
great
digging
one.
into All-Star
Unfortunately,
games.
most of the great All-Star games were ages ago, because the All-Star games lately have been.
That's all right though. So what?
I think
Yeah.
we need to queue up some classic home run derby and some classic All-Star games. Hell yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I'll just put a pin on my thought. Oklahoma State is a team I would keep an eye on. Oklahoma State. I know they're kind of stagnant in the middle of that top 10.
Yep.
That team has just firearms. Really fun team to watch when the pitching staff gets going, because they just got some horses that they just trot out one after another.
Freakish.
So that's a fun team to watch too. So that's the end of my piece there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. So like just fire us a message if you guys like see a matchup or whatever, and we'll all get on it and we'll discuss it next week or whenever.
Or see a D lineman go 404 yards.
Right,
404
yeah.
feet.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's awesome, dude. But all right, so before we go heading home here, I did throw it out, fantasy baseball for you guys. We did get a good interest. We got 7 people already, so that will be 10, including us 3. So we'll have 7 and a 3. We're gonna look for 2 more, so we have a 12-man league. And if not, then we'll just go with a 10. I do have a list of the people that are in so far. We got Josh, we got Ken, And we got RJ, Morgan, Craig, Stacy, and then we got Brian. So those are our 7 so far.
Nice.
So yeah, I'm just looking for 2 more, and then it will start up in October when baseball starts. So
Yeah, I mean, listen, if we end up playing fantasy baseball, it means that they're playing baseball. So like, I'm all in. Like whenever it starts,
exactly.
I guess it starts. But
absolutely, but yeah. Well, thanks for tuning in tonight, guys. This was a lot of fun. Like, thanks for the back and forth. That was awesome. I love it. So you'll see us again next week at 8. So tune in, and we'll be dropping the question of the week after the show. So probably sometime tomorrow. So look for that, and we'll go for
Jeez. I mean, it's easy. Just get fluent on war. You'll be able to get the rest of the bracket.
Yeah, right. Oh my goodness. Yeah. All right. So these are all related, right? So Ken and then Brian and Morgan are his sons. So
Oh God,
like that's the collusion right there.
that's
They're
got
all
to be a
gonna
fun
work together.
Thanksgiving table to be around.
Dude, why is Ken Griffey Jr. on the free agent market? Boop, oh, he's gone. Brian's got him. Like, okay, great. All right. So yeah, we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next Monday at 8.